So what makes someone a moral person when it comes to dating? Well, it's not that much different than what makes someone a moral person in general. Just these moralities are then placed into the experience of dating. But there are some moralities, of course, that are specifically about dating because they have to do with what you should do with someone who you are in a sexual or romantic relationship with, or someone else who is in a sexual or romantic relationship with a third person, right? You can already start to understand what I'm going to be getting at when it comes to morality. So in this video, what I want to cover is like the basics of morality. If you abide by this, then you're a good person when it comes to dating, and a good person in general, probably. Then in the second video, what I want to do is go over what makes someone a virtuous person. So better than just good, like they're going above and beyond of what's asked of them and is operating at a higher level of integrity and virtue and ethics and integrity. But this is just the basics, and it's sufficient, right? I don't want you to think of the basics or the baseline as something that is just average, because it's not average, because most people actually don't abide by these. It's more rampant for people to not abide by these moralities, okay? So I want you to think of these as very, very good, even though it's mostly just not doing bad things, right? What makes someone a good person is largely, in the beginning, just not being shitty, just not being bad. If you avoid being bad, then you are by definition good, right? You're not neutral. You're good, actually, if you abstain from doing bad things. But, of course, some of us are looking to be even better than that. So that'll be the second video. But this first video, what are these integrities that I'm talking about, these moralities? So they're very simple. One, it's you don't lie, and there are some different shades to that, right? It goes into more depth than just don't say this is red when it's blue, right? You got to say it's blue because you know it's blue, and you should speak the truth. There is more nuance to truth and honesty than just not speaking plain, deliberate lies. The second one is a little bit more difficult because it's avoiding harsh language. There's also nuance to this as well, because there are definitely times when it would be more honest to say the harsher thing, right? And you don't want those moralities to conflict. But you got to make sure that your harsh language is done with good intentions and isn't just your desire to hurt the other person. And then thirdly, it's no infidelity on both sides, meaning you, if you're in a relationship or a marriage, and maybe you're single but dealing with someone else who is in a relationship or a marriage, and not doing anything with them, to abstain from that. So we'll start with the first one because it's the most complicated when it comes to specifically dating. So when you are speaking truth, there is, as I explained, I feel this way and that's how I feel, so I'm going to say that I feel. Like it's 75%, so I'm going to say 75%, not 80%. But when you are dealing with a woman, another person who has perceptions of you and expectations of you, it can get very complicated with what is honesty. To what degree are you being honest, or do you even need to go to the level of what I might call transparency, right? And that's very, because, you know, if you go on it, let's say you go on a date with a girl, right, and you sit down, someone might have the idea that true transparency is you sit down and you say, these are my intentions for the date. I intend to talk to you for 2.5 hours, and then, you know, I've been horny for the past 2 weeks, so I'm going to invite you home to have sex with me, but I want you to be sure that nothing else is going to happen because I only have these expectations. I don't want anything more serious. And you lay out a contract, right, to her and say, this is everything that's going to happen. These are my intentions to the perfectly understood degree in my heart, and anything deviating from that is dishonesty. Now, most of you probably listening to that are like, no, that's absurd. That's ridiculous. But there are some people who have that perception, and I have had that perception, or at least that question at times, because obviously when you're dating, people are going to get disappointed and hurt, because a lot of what dating is it's this dance of, you know, are we compatible? Am I attracted to you? And are you at some point going to say or do something that makes me not attracted to you anymore? Or maybe I'm attracted to you, but I know I can do better. Which isn't necessarily wrong of that person to have that view, because why wouldn't we take the best that we can get? it can be taken to the extreme, right? And you have people who, oh, I need this, 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 and this. I want this perfect person. But they themselves are not worthy of someone on that level, right? So expectations and representations of who you are very, very complicated, because you might undervalue yourself, right? So you might even be being dishonest on some really hard to understand level because you're not presenting the best side of yourself because you don't think that highly of yourself, but actually you have a lot of value. But then there's people who overrepresent themselves and overestimate themselves. And so they'll present themselves as, let's say, a very virtuous and moral person, or a very intelligent person, or a very hardworking and diligent person. And they may actually view themselves this way. And so on the date, they will present themselves this way. I mean, I've heard this from women where they were like, this guy pretended he was like this, right? He presented himself as such. And I started to fall for that. And then once I started to date him and I got into a relationship with him, all of a sudden, where did this person go, right? They started to show their true colors. And it's not like blatant dishonesty, because I don't think that person sets out to say, okay, I know I'm a piece of shit, but I'm going to market myself as better than I am, and then I'm going to catch them. And then once they're in a relationship with me, they're going to see my true colors. But they're going to be so deep in investment where it's like the sunken cost fallacy. They've already dumped so much time and energy and years into this. They're just going to see it. I might as well stay, right? Now, a lot of people fall into that trap. But do I think that the person who misrepresented themselves did so with a malicious intent? No, I think some people just aren't honest with themselves either, right? So true honesty requires you to be not only honest with the person that you're going on a date with, but honest with yourself, because the person who you're going to be you're going to be showing the best sides of yourself. That's just what's going to happen. I mean, you're not going to go on a date and say, I'm a piece of crap, right? You're going to say, you might know that you can have some work to be done on yourself, but you're striving in that direction, right? But the question is, do you need to say that exactly? Or are you going to present the best parts of yourself? And then through natural interactions with that person, they're going to start to see the layers of you and the flaws of you, right? Because like I said, you don't need to lay out some contract of your pros and cons like you are some application that they're going to test out, and you need to give yourself a star rating in every different category of, okay, here's my fitness level, this is my intelligence level, this is my humor level, this is my sex skills in bed, right? So you're not Yelp reviewing yourself, okay? Because we're human beings, and communication is a lot more nuanced and complicated than just saying, like in the earliest example of truth that I gave, blue is blue and red is red. You're going to have shades of colors where, yeah, it's red, but it's a little bit purple too, right? And so what I would endeavor to accomplish, is to try and be as honest as you can, not in I'm this and I am that, but present yourself to the degree that you believe you are that which you are. To what degree? Like, I am, if you believe you're a funny person, then show those traits. If you believe you're a deep person, then show those traits. Get into those type of conversations and show people who you are as fast as you can, so that you don't need to spill your heart out to them, but I do want you to start being more transparent, not to an insane contract Yelp review degree, but to the degree that when you walk away from a date, or you are actively dating someone, every time you spend time with them, you're like, did I present myself as honestly as I could have, right? Because deliberate lying, that's pretty easy to understand not to do, because it's never worth it 100% of the time. And white lies are never worth it. But sometimes when you're telling jokes or when you're telling stories, there's natural exaggerations that happen, right? So there's always going to be some bending of perceptions, but so long as you believe that the heart of how you think, how you feel, and what you've actually done, and you're telling someone through a story of something that happened to you, or through explaining your beliefs, there's one thing that's showing your best sides of yourself, and marketing the best sides of yourself. and slowly allowing the flaws to be revealed. And then there's very purposefully hiding things that you know are wrong with you and not giving any sort of clue to the person that you have these issues. That would be where you start to get into the level of deception. And when you get to the level of expectations, that is even more nuanced. But it has to do with the same gradients of discernment that I've gone over in the past, 5 minutes of explanation, where she can expect maybe more of you. Like, is this going to be serious or is it going to be casual? Right? And you don't need to be updating someone every time you spend time with them. Be like, you know what? I'm 60% sure I want you to be my girlfriend at this point, right? Or in 3.5 weeks, I'm going to ask you to be my wife. Like, you don't need to be doing that level of transparency when it comes to expectations. But if you sense that someone is starting to have greater expectations, I wouldn't say force those things, because there would be times where, like, I would think a girl is catching feelings and I would start to act in certain ways because I didn't want her to catch feelings. And then we would end up to the conversation of it, and she would be like, why did you believe that I was catching feelings? Like, I was just having fun with you, but I wasn't necessarily falling in love with you. And I had, like, imaginarily placed that perception of how much I think she felt about me, and I believed I needed to control that and temper her expectations. So I had good intentions. I wanted to make sure that she wasn't getting the wrong idea, because with her specifically, it was just a casual relationship, right? But I wanted her to understand what was going on. But I was too transparent, right? So there is a such thing as too transparent, where you are too openly discussing how you're feeling all the time. I'll put it this way. Have you ever been the kind of person who you don't want to be misunderstood, so you over-explain yourself? But when you over-explain yourself, you actually end up being misunderstood and confusing the other person, right? That's what I'm talking about, okay? And even part of this, in this video, I've demonstrated that's a personality trait of mine. I'm very over-explanatory, and I really want people to understand what I'm thinking. But this is an educational video, right? So me over-explaining myself is something that is probably very good, because you can see all the nuance that's going on in my mind and my heart that I've learned from experience of dating so many different women and doing things wrong and doing things right. But you wouldn't be talking like this to a person you're dating. I personally do, because I've learned how to do it in a skillful way. But most people don't have that type of personality, right? So endeavor to be honest and transparent, and to make sure that expectations are being understood, but not in a contractual way, because I think people believe that being, offering contracts is some way that defeats misunderstandings. But actually, no. If it did, then everyone could be a lawyer, right? The law was created to have clarity, but you have to go to school for many years, and it's very complicated because there's so many nuances to the law that, in its desire to be honest and fair, it's actually become uber complicated, right? So seeing dating in a legalistic perspective is not a solution to the problem of misunderstanding in dating, right? You need to understand that there's a hybrid between being honest and transparent, and then confusing people with over explanations and over transparency. So keep that in mind and contemplate it. And it's the most important part of this video, because it is the most complicated, but it is the most important. Okay, I'll stop over explaining myself. So the next one is harsh language, right? This one is pretty simple, right? I've been the kind of guy who's called girls bitches or hoes before, right? Because I was listening to certain types of music, and that was the kind of people I was hanging out with, and it's just how I felt. Like, it wasn't meant in malice, right? But can it be misunderstood? Sure, of course. I've had tons of girls and people who see my videos be like, well, why are you calling girls bitches? Why are you calling girls hoes? And I would speak like that to the girls that I was dating. And most of them would understand I was doing it in a cute way, right? And they would even respect it. They're like, yeah, you're not sugarcoating your words. Like, you're speaking how you feel. When I speak about harsh language when you're speaking to other people, I mean using words like insulting people with the intention of making them feel bad. If you use harsh language in a way that, like, someone can curse in a video, but because their video was so serious and all of a sudden they curse, you're like, whoa, that was a different, it was a change of pace in the way they were communicating. But the reason they were like, you know what, this is fucking, and you're like, wow, this person just said fuck. They've been so nice and cordial the entire time. But that moment of that realness, that rawness that they have actually had an effect, and it made you pay even more attention and learn the lesson even better, right? So when you're communicating, you can use harsh language in effective and skillful ways. But you need to be using it with that intention in mind. You shouldn't be saying cruel things to people. Now, you might be thinking, of course, I'm not just going to walk around calling girls bitches. But when it comes to someone who breaks your heart, someone who flakes on you or disappoints you or cheats on, like, this can be in varying degrees of how much someone can hurt you. When you speak about them, not necessarily to their face, but about them, are you going to speak about them kindly? Because that's going to affect your perceptions and how you feel about people. So you should watch your language even when you're not around that person. It's very, very difficult to do, right? Like, you may think this is easy, but it's not. You have to be very conscious and mindful of the way you're thinking, the way you're feeling, and the way you're speaking. I want this to be clear that if you become a moral person, you are going to be a shining fucking light to women. Like, I promise you, I can tell you without any reservation or hesitation that, yeah, being hot's great. That's important, right? If you're just a good person, but you're not hot to girls, then you're just going to be a friend. I'm sorry, right? You have to be sexy to women. But if you're sexy and you're a good person, you are such a rare human being. You may think it's common, but it's fucking not. Like, you will be such a rare human being. Women will flock to you. You will become a goddamn lighthouse of lust and reverence. I promise you. So become a good person, right? And embody these values. I cannot stress it enough. And lastly, this one I cannot stress enough either. And it's very fucking simple because it is categorically, and that's a philosophical, it is a philosophical term that means under every circumstance, right? It is categorical. So do not cheat on someone you are with, and do not cheat with someone, right? So if you're single and someone has a boyfriend or a girlfriend, do not. Trust me. Just fucking trust me. If you want to do it, then you have freedom. You can go and do it. But I promise you, karma is very real. Do not do it. You may think well, first of all, it's not a victimless crime. Do I think that the woman is doing the greater evil? Yes. But you are still doing evil. You're the getaway driver in a bank robbery. You didn't rob the bank and hold a gun to someone's face, but you still aided and abetted in a crime, and that's still going to have negative effects karmically. I promise you. There's no ambiguity about it. Just don't do it. It'll just cause so many things to happen in your heart and in your mind, and it'll just give you such an ugly look at humanity. Just don't do it. And if you're in a relationship with someone, don't cheat on them. If you want to be sleeping with other women while you're dating someone, then you need to speak to the woman that you're dating and be honest and open about the fact that that's what you want. Okay? But it's very simple. Do not cheat. If you have a promise with someone, not even do this whole wink wink like she knows I'm a alpha man who, likes to sleep with a lot of women. If you're a true alpha man, then you don't need to wink wink, yeah baby, I'm loyal to you. You should be alpha enough to say to the woman, look, I love you and I want to be with you and I want you to be my girlfriend or whatever, but I also want to sleep with other women. And come to whatever agreement you can with these women. But I'm not going to go into any more detail about that because for 99% of people on this earth, you're probably going to be monogamous. So don't cheat and don't be with someone who's in a relationship or is married especially. Just wait for them to be single and find someone else who's single. That's how you become a moral person in dating. It sounds simple, but it's not, obviously. So in the second video, we're going to go over how to become a virtuous person, how to take this to the next level and be even better and become a cathedral of light, not just a lighthouse, but a cathedral. So hope you enjoyed this video. Best of luck to you. Be good. Get good. I love you. Bye.